So, you've started learning Japanese. You're feeling pretty good about it. But as anyone who's been on this journey knows, it's filled with these aha moments that are immediately followed by a wait, what? Moment? Today, we're going to peel back the layers and get into why Japanese is so deceptively hard. Okay, picture this. You're in a restaurant in Japan, feeling confident. You need some chopsticks, so you say the word hashi. But instead of getting utensils, you just get this confused look, and maybe someone points you toward the nearest bridge. If that sounds even remotely familiar, you've already stumbled headfirst into one of the language's biggest secrets.
So what is going on here? Well, the key isn't the spelling, it's the music. For chopsticks, the pitch starts high and then it drops, ha-shi. But for a bridge, it starts low and then it rises, ha-shi. For an English speaker, this is a huge tripwire, right? Because for us, pitch changes our emotion, not the actual meaning of word. In Japanese, that tiny shift in melody changes absolutely everything.
And it's not just the pitch, it's also the timing. If you say kite, nice and short, it means come. But hold that I sound for just a fraction of a second longer, kite, and suddenly it means listen. This is another one of those traps for learners because, a long vowel in English just adds emphasis. In Japanese, it creates a whole new word. These subtle sounds are like a secret code we need to crack.
But the challenge is, they go way beyond just single sounds. Some of the very first words you learn are actually like these linguistic Swiss Army knives. They seem simple on the surface, but they're packed with hidden meanings that shift completely depending on the situation you're in.
Let's talk about the king of all-purpose words, sumimasen. You bump into someone, sumimasen, that's sorry. Someone holds the door for you, sumimasen, that's thanks. Need to get the waiter's attention? You guessed it, sumimasen, that's excuse me. It's an apology, gratitude, and a way to get attention all rolled into one. The real trick for us learners is figuring out which sumimasen we're hearing in the moment. Oh, and then there's this one, which can lead to total, utter confusion. Daijoubu desu. So let's say someone offers to carry your bags. You might say daijoubu desu to mean, no thanks, I'm fine. But then, if you trip and fall and someone asks if you're hurt, you'd say the exact same phrase, daijoubu desu, to mean, yes, I'm okay. It can be both a yes and a no. And context is the only clue you've got.
So how in the world do you navigate all this ambiguity? Well, here's a little pro tip from our sources. When you really want to be clear that you're saying thank you, maybe just ditch the confusing sumimasen and go with a direct arigato. It's clear, it's unambiguous, and trust me, it can make your life so much easier.
Okay, let's circle back to those tricky sounds we heard earlier. Because this isn't just about a few random words here and there. This principle is a fundamental rule of the language. To really get Japanese, you have to kind of retrain your brain to accept that sound is meaning. Listening suddenly becomes this active, analytical skill. So let's go back to our hashi example. Listen again really closely for that melody. Chopsticks, ha-shi. Bridge, ha-shi. See? It's less about just saying the word and more about, singing its unique little tune. Here's another great one, seki. If you say se-ki with that high to low pitch, you're asking for a seat. But if you say se-ki, low to high, you're telling someone you have a cough. Same letters, totally different melody, and a completely different meaning. And like we saw with vowel length, that tiny extra beat, it's everything. Kite is come. Kint is listen. It's a kind of distinction that just doesn't really exist in English, which makes it a constant challenge for us to both hear and reproduce correctly. So we've seen how the language is tricky on the surface, with all its sounds and words. But honestly, the deepest challenges, they lie underneath. The next level of difficulty isn't about what's said, it's about what's left unsaid. This is the art of reading between the lines.
At the very heart of this is a concept called kuki o yomu, which literally means to read the air. It's this crucial social skill of sensing the mood, understanding the hierarchy, and picking up on the unspoken intentions in a room. It's about hearing the silence, because often the subtext is way more important than the text itself.
Okay, here's a classic real-world example. You ask someone to take on a new project at work. They reply, "Kongaete okimasu," which translates to, "I'll think about it." Now, a learner might hear that and think, great, there's a chance. But a native speaker, they often hear a very polite no. A direct refusal can disrupt social harmony, so the language is used to soften the blow. The real meaning isn't in the words, it's floating in the air.
Now, if all of this sounds incredibly difficult, well, you're not wrong. It is. But before you get too discouraged, check this out. This comes from a survey by Japan's Agency for Cultural Affairs. And the key thing to know is this. It found that a whopping 94% of native Japanese speakers feel that other Japanese people make mistakes with polite language, or keigo. So, look, if even native speakers struggle with it, it's definitely okay for us learners to find it tough too.
All right, let's switch gears to something that's both incredibly expressive and a massive challenge. The wonderful world of onomatopoeia. And these aren't just simple sound words. We're talking about words for feelings, textures, and actions. Japanese is just saturated with them.
Just how saturated? Get this, our sources show Japanese has up to 5 times more of these words than English does. I mean, we've got bang and splash. They have thousands of words for everything from the way rain is falling to the specific feeling of being dizzy. It's amazing.
And this richness can lead to some pretty hilarious confusion. One of our sources tells this great story from a Japanese farm. A manager points to a caterpillar and describes it wriggling as unyu unyu. Well, the Indonesian trainees just burst out laughing. Why? Because in their language, unyu unyu means cute. It's a perfect reminder that even sound words don't always translate. So what makes this part of the language so tough? Well, our sources point to 3 main things. First off, the sounds are just culturally specific. Scissors are choki-choki in Japanese, but they're krez-krez in Indonesia. Second, the sheer number of words is just overwhelming. And third, a single word can have a bunch of different meanings. For example, goro-goro can be the sound of thunder, a rumbling stomach, or even just the act of lazing around the house.
Okay, so pitch accent, unspoken rules, a whole universe of onomatopoeia. I know, it's a lot. But here's the key thing to realize. These aren't just obstacles you have to get over. Each of these challenges is actually a doorway to a much deeper, more authentic understanding of the language and the culture itself.
So, what are the big takeaways here? It's really about adopting a new mindset. First, know that even the simplest words can have hidden layers. Second, train your ear to understand that in Japanese, sound is meaning. Third, remember that context is absolutely everything. And finally, learn to listen to the silence, because what's left unsaid often matters the most.
Ultimately, every difficult part of Japanese is really an invitation. It's an invitation to listen more closely, to think more deeply, and to engage with a culture on its own terms. It truly is a lifelong journey of discovery. So we'll leave you with this question to think about. What's the one Japanese expression that left you completely lost? And what secret do you think it might be trying to teach?